that first boss that was a mentor to you, the first client that you won that taught you something and then referred you business. I think we don't list out the people that actually have been helpful to us over the years. And it's actually, you can actually look at your own LinkedIn profile or your own resume in an entirely different way.
Your business success depends on relationships, relationships with customers, relationships with employees, and relationships with stakeholders. What do they all have in common? They're all human. Because no matter if your business is B2B or B2C, it's really H to H, human to human. Welcome to the Human Connection Podcast. I'm your host, Karl Pontau. Each week, I'll bring you stories, insights, and practical advice from experts that you can apply to your growing company and daily life. This week, I'm connecting with Jason Levin. Jason believes in the power of authentic relationships to transform careers. Based in Washington, D.C., he is the founder of Ready, Set, Launch, LLC, where Levin is an in-demand speaker and trainer on maintaining professional relationships. He has broad career experience in brand management at Unilever, consulting at Accenture, and enterprise branding sales at Vault.com. Levin empowers his audiences to advance their career, transition into retirement, and grow their professional services practices since 2011. He has a lifelong interest in keeping in touch, which is why he wrote Relationships to Infinity. Congrats on Ready, Set, Launch, and welcome to the Human Connection Podcast.
Karl, thanks so much for having me.
So I love the thing you mentioned about lifelong interest in keeping in touch. And so I want to ask, why are people so bad at keeping in touch?
You know, there's a lot of reasons why people are bad at keeping in touch. And I think the hardest part is there are so many things going on in our lives that we often don't stop and take the time to act on all of these things that are going on in our head. Oh, I've been meaning to reach out to so-and-so, or I don't know what, but I want to go connect with so-and-so. And then the idea goes away. And so there's all these things running around in our brain that are literally trapped because we're not acting on them. And I have a chapter in my book, I gave it a name. Just like ships and planes get lost forever in the Bermuda Triangle, we all have our own personal Bermuda Keep-in-Touch Triangles. And so I did research with the mental health community. We have 3 normal human emotions that are actually barriers to reconnection: guilt, fear, and worry. Our internal voice thinks that we are forgotten. We blame ourselves for not maintaining the relationship. We're worried about what might happen. And so it is entirely normal to have a Bermuda Keep-in-Touch Triangle. And that is why we actually put a brake on getting back in touch with people.
And so and when we were talking before we started recording, you mentioned that this behavior, these emotions contribute to the kind of degradation or the erosion of long-term relationships, because if something comes up, you don't talk to someone for a while, you keep putting it off, and eventually the relationship ends. And so that can contribute to, you talk about like loneliness epidemic and just the sense of disconnection in the world.
Sure.
And so what are some, like, what's the habit, or what can people do to get past or escape from this Bermuda Triangle of disconnection?
You know, and it's one of these things that we can get into no different than brushing our teeth or breathing, is put a time block in your calendar, and it can be as easy as 10 or 15 minutes. And what you can use is what psychologists call positive reminiscence. And positive reminiscence has actually been very successful in dementia patients, because what it does is they take a certain type of food or a photo or a song, and it actually brings that person back to that moment because it is a memory, right? And so often people are like, I want to get back in touch with so-and-so. I don't know what to say, or I don't know how to even start. And if you actually use positive reminiscence as the influence to that reconnection to that one person, then all you need to do is begin with the following. I thought of you because. I thought of you because I saw this movie that we had seen 10 years ago. I thought of you because I was at this restaurant and we had a wonderful meal there. I thought of you because I just did this incredible training and speech, and you helped me 5 years ago learn how to do that. And if we remind ourselves of all the people that have helped us, positive reminiscence can actually, as you're talking about human to human, H to H, that is what people want. It is the biggest gift you can give somebody else, is to remind them that you still remember.
That it's interesting as you described that. I thought about the people I've networked with, because I do a ton of networking. I love connecting, and there is that. And I was mentioning again before we recorded that I had just reconnected with someone at a networking event that he was organizing, but he had reached out to me via text and said, "Hey, it's been a while. We're doing these events again," because we had done them pre-pandemic, but I hadn't talked to him in a long time. And just knowing that I was on his mind and he thought of me, and it was worth him taking the time to reach out, was just like a catalyst for all sorts of warm, fuzzy feelings. And I'm really excited to reconnect and to continue the relationship. And it's funny how in our own heads we come up with, oh, I feel guilty. They're going to be like upset. There are all these reasons why we don't reconnect. But on the other side of things, the person is actually touched because you reach out to reconnect. And so the like an opposite is true on their end, because they feel nice, like happy that you reconnected with them, and versus you feeling guilty that you haven't stayed in touch. And that's such a interesting like dichotomy of emotions right there.
You know, Karl, and you're hitting on something that we all feel. And about a year and a half after my book came out, it only reconfirmed what I already wrote. There was a University of Pittsburgh study that actually shows we undervalue the impact we have on others. The study was highlighted in a New York Times article called "Text Your Friends, It Matters More Than You Actually Think." And the study went into how valuable do you think checking in with or sharing a memory with someone would have a favorable impact. And we actually discount our own impact on others. And actually the study showed your biggest impact in reaching out to somebody is somebody you've lost touch with.
I'd imagine I'm actually not surprised about the biggest. It's more impactful because there's a contrast with not having seen them for a while, versus if it's someone you're always talking to, then they kind of expect that. But if it's someone you've lost touch with, that sudden reconnection it's high contrast to the norm, and so it stands out more. So that makes a lot of sense. So,
yep.
So you mentioned that the way to kind of get back in touch, or like using these memories to like, I was thinking of you because, is there a recommended tip for people that are trying to build this habit of keeping in touch with people better? What do you recommend people do if they want to get started in reconnecting with people?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you can begin to think through who were the people that either cared about you professionally, your former mentors, that professor in college that really cared about you and gave you that extra push to go and get that internship, or that classmate in grad school that was really helpful to you to get you thinking about things in a different way. That first boss that was a mentor to you, the first client that you won that taught you something and then referred you business. I think we don't list out the people that actually have been helpful to us over the years. And it's actually, you can actually look at your own LinkedIn profile or your own resume in an entirely different way. Where if you go year by year by year, who was helpful? Who cared? Who went beyond? And you can go year by year by year and say, you know what? I have not been in touch with this person. They were very helpful to me. And that as an intention coupled with positive reminiscence, you start to get into a habit, all because you have a time block in your calendar telling you to do this, because we often forget.
And have you noticed that there, just for my own benefit, because I'm definitely planning on blocking out some time, is there a certain time of the week you find that is, we're trying to reach out to people? I'm sure it depends on like the industry they're in, all this stuff, but it's like, is there a certain like time of day you find is the best to do to reach out to people, or to be just that kind of, what's the easiest time to set these sort of habits? I know from reading other book, there's a great book called When, that talks about that, like the time of day you do things can have a big impact on how well you do them. Like if you're trying to do more left brain logical, like thinking things in the early afternoon when you're tired and you just had lunch and your energy dips, you're less effective. So is there like a better time of day to do this sort of activity?
You know, Karl, I love the question you're asking, and you're talking about Daniel Pink's When.
Yeah.
Being a huge fan of Dan Pink, and actually Dan Pink actually blurbed my book also, I think using that self-reflection in and of itself is to understand when you are most present and when you will get it done. And so there's no cookie cutter, you know, you need to do it at this time. It's when does it work for you? And the cool thing now, either via text or email, you can schedule sends. So if you're most creative at 11:30 at night and you want to schedule send a text or an email for the following day, you can do that. If you want to even put something in the mail, you can do that. And I think it gets back to, and Karl, you're hitting on something so important here, is the self-reflection of when is this going to fit in my own schedule? And when you decide to put it into your calendar, it's irregardless of where it fits, because you know that you will do it when you decide to put it in a place that would work for you.
Yeah, I think it's something that picking the right time for each individual based on their schedule and their personal preferences makes a lot of sense. And one thing I also is reminded me of the episode that actually of the show that just released today, talking about using video for internal communications with teams, because it's so much more clearly able to communicate what your intentions are when you're speaking, and there's like the facial expressions and body language versus like a text. And so just thinking I was thinking, who can I reach out to? And also thinking I should send them little videos of them saying hi, because it's like that personal, like hear your voice and see your face and see the enthusiasm for reconnecting is gonna be a lot more than just a better effective than just like a text message saying, hey, we should talk.
Right. And you know, Karl, I love what you're talking about, because that also hits on the intergenerational piece, right? So I'm a proud Gen Xer, and I grew up leaving voicemails, right? And we didn't have video at the time, and now we do. And how easy is it to just create a quick 10 or 15 second, hey, I'm thinking of you, let's connect, and to show that excitement. And when we look at other generational communications, you know, the younger generations would never even think to pick up the phone and leave a voicemail, because that's not what the phone is for. But I think that you're right in there are the nonverbals that come from either video or phone that allow for us to communicate excitement. And so, yes, for those that are comfortable just doing a quick 10 or 15 or 20-second video and then sharing that via text or DM or however you want to do it, that is so impactful. And it actually communicates more. It's funny. Every time I leave a voicemail, somebody emails me back. And I'm like, okay, at least they've responded. So,
what about
right?
like smoke signals or interpretive dance? You ever tried those to reach out to people?
Even carrier pigeons, you look at the weather and see what happens. So yes, I think, it's funny how sometimes a lot of this can get lost in translation, but really it's the intention. If you're coming across with a positive intention, that the other human will receive that in the way that you have intended, and it'll have a favorable impact. And so,
yeah, I think it kind of loops back to, again, that the stories we tell ourselves of like, oh, I feel guilty, or they're going to be so mad we haven't kept in touch, and all like the fear and the guilt or the worrying that keeps us from doing this is completely spun up in our own heads. And I think it's probably the biggest barrier to getting out of our own heads and being vulnerable and putting ourselves out there and starting that reaching out. Because if they don't respond, or if they don't respond favorably, you haven't really lost anything, because you're trying to rebuild a connection anyway. So you only have something to gain. You're not like it's going to be like a negative impact by reaching out and just trying to reconnect with someone.
Yeah, and as you talk about H to H, human to human, there's the other H that is an opportunity here, and that's the habit, right? So if you have a continual habit of putting out good things into the universe, however you want to put that out, that is authentic and with consistency, you will people feel better when they are reminding themselves of all the people that have helped them. And it gets back to, wow, I'm really not alone. That there's a whole set of folks that have cared about me. And what the studies also show is that incentivize people to help others, another H. So human to human, developing the habit and then helping. And we all can help.
Yeah, that's, I think, I know I learned from a really great networking coach on how to give referrals and how to connect people and just the mindset. And I love connecting two people and seeing them going off and do awesome things together. And I think it's the part of that process that I can improve on is the follow-up and the staying in touch. And so I really appreciate these insights. This has been really valuable. I'm definitely going to check out the book you sent me and voraciously devour that in the next couple of days. So if there's someone I know you do a lot of, like, you do training on this and help mentoring and stuff. What's kind of how can people reach out to you? What's the best way if someone's going, oh my gosh, I need to get better at this, and they want to reach out to you? What's the best way to connect with you?
So my website is readysetlaunch.net. And people can find me at readysetlaunch.net. And really, where I can be most helpful is that often conferences are looking for speakers that can really engage people on authentic connection and reconnection. And so I do a lot of keynotes on this topic. And really, learning and development professionals that are looking for authentic trainings, both for when we think about professional services and building your practice as an attorney or an accountant or an executive search professional, that's where people can find my highest, best value, because we can collectively get to action if we actually just sit down and look at the social science. So people can find me at readysetlaunch.net.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for connecting with me today, Jason. If you enjoyed this episode of the Human Connection Podcast, please leave a review, and share it. If you'd like to connect with myself or Jason, check out the links in the show notes. And remember, no matter if your business is B2B or B2C, it's really H to H, human to human. Happy connecting.